So this video is sponsored by Pionex, one of the exchanges I use all the time. It's one of the main crypto brokers to Binance, so the volume is very high. The main thing that sets them apart though is that you can use free trading bots, a variety all designed to benefit from different market behaviors, whether that's up, down or sideways. You'll get 20% off all your trading fees for life with my link in the description. And if you join the Telegram, a lot of us already use it, so if you've got questions we can try and help you out. Hello everybody, welcome back. So we're going to have a look at Ocean Protocol. So it's one of the coins that I suppose I don't promote anything, but you know, I've tried my hardest sometimes to look into projects and do what some would call fundamental research. And I've always liked the idea of Ocean. I've always thought that, you know, down the line it will reach a much higher value than it is today, based upon what it's trying to achieve and blah 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 blah. But you know what it's like. I don't know if it's the same with you, but you can read any project and any white paper. Not that I read them, but you can read any of them and you go, well, that sounds good. That sounds like the future. And basically, they're easy to sell these things to yourself because they do generally all sound, you know, good, right? But I've never been very good at pricing in, you know, the fundamentals. Yeah, I think the only thing that I've managed to do it successfully with would be Bitcoin, right? And Ocean's never really, well, I wouldn't say it's not worked out. I mean, it is definitely way in profit. I bought most of my Ocean when it was in the 30-cent zone, but I mean, it's been a bit of an underperformer, let's face it, and it's also been a bit of a rocky ride, very rocky ride. So we're going to have a look at it now because the chart actually looks okay for what it's worth. Now, obviously, we're up massively today, 22%. For its tether, 27, almost 28 versus Bitcoin. So it's been a good day for it so far. With the market being down, it's pretty much one of the only tokens which is up particularly. There are some coins that are up versus their Bitcoin pairing. You've got ICP up here, over here at 4%, I think. So some altcoins are showing strength versus Bitcoin, which is kind of what I've been saying. I suppose for the last week, that the biggest story behind the pullback is that actually the market's pulling back relatively evenly, and the bounces are going to be felt most likely, at least in the short term, for altcoins. So yeah, I mean, it's that is one overview, I suppose, of the market. But to see Ocean pamp like this is kind of out the blue. But since pamping, we can see that we've got some nice signals forming now. This signal was forged today, conversion baseline, and this one suggests continuation of the trend from this point forward. So this is the first one we've had above the cloud probably ever. In fact, most of these crosses, in fact, I think all of the crosses we've had so far have always been below the cloud. We've had negative one. No, we got one above the cloud there, but it was in a downtrend, so it didn't really count. So it's not a very old chart. So you got to put it into perspective. I always say that when you're looking at charts, the older the chart, the better, because all indicators are based around price, volume, and time. And so when you have a small chart that's like, let's just say, a year old or less, indicators, you know, they're less reliable because they don't have that aspect of time. Obviously, a year is time, but it's not enough for charts to be treated in a mature way. Now, I obviously like to trade things on daily charts and weekly charts, and Ocean's not old enough really to look at the weekly and go, yeah, I suppose that's because it really isn't that old. August 2020 to it. We are not looking at a very old chart here. But for what it's worth, the chart looks okay. So we're above pretty much we are above all major moving averages at the moment. We're pushing outside of the Bollinger Band, which is good. We've got a nice curved slope of divergence as well above the 0 point on the MACD. We're not particularly overextended on our RSI or money flow index either on the weekly. So if this wants to continue, it would have the range to continue if it wanted to. Same kind of deal on the daily as well. And again, above all major moving averages with that conversion baseline cross, which is essentially what that means is, you know, from entry point, which again, this isn't the perfect entry point. This is the signal to say the trend should continue until proven otherwise. And if we get a dump today, that would be negated because we have to hold the value above $1.20 for this signal to still technically be in play. So just bear all that in mind. It's a strong signal, but it definitely has to hold today and probably tomorrow at that current price. After then, it can come down. So what I'm talking about is we do not want this this Chiku span over here to touch the price, because that's basically warning us to get out of the trade, as the signal is essentially void. So it's a bit of a dodgy time to receive this signal, but it is what it is. We'll see where we go. So long as we close above $1.20 today, $1.21, we should be okay for this to continue. But remember, this is Ocean, right? Ocean chart is a wild card, and it's never really been a very good tradable chart. But we got all the way back down here. We've got our golden cross, which is diverged. We got dumped into as well, which is also, I say bullish. It's not obviously super bullish at the time, but I retested the 200 exponential after a golden cross. So we got our golden cross here, dumped into it there, dumped into it once again. And we've gone to town ever since then. So it looks like, for whatever reason, the buyers are in the market, and the technical support, whatever it is that's going on behind closed doors. So I do like the way that it looks. Am I saying buy right this very second in time? Of course not. Of course not. Like I say, my entry point was way back. I've ridden this train for a while now. 30 cents is my buy-in, roughly. I think between 30 and 35. So we'll call it 33. Will I be buying any more? No. No, I won't. But does that stop me from presenting this chart to anybody? No. But does it mean I'm promoting this, buying Ocean Protocol? No, it's not. I'm not your financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. If you want to buy here and you get wrecked tomorrow, it's your deal, isn't it? It's not my deal. We can get wrecked together, but you would be more wrecked than me, because you bought outside of a Bollinger Band, you bought when the market is generally red, and you bought when your token at Ocean is the only thing up versus a sea of red. So I mean, you got to think about what it is you're doing. Just put it into perspective. I talked to people on my Patreon and my Telegram in general, and I always say, look, before we go into any trade, we've always got to look at what Bitcoin's doing. Bitcoin, any altcoin chart or trade has got to be looked with Bitcoin in the corner of your eye. In fact, essentially what you got to do really is look at the Bitcoin chart before you chart anything else out. So as we were saying yesterday, that this is the buy zone. As we approach the bottom of this buy zone, this is where I'm looking to maybe even see a complete reversal, but essentially we will see a bounce. Yep, the wick was about $100 lower than my expected area, but when you were talking about what would that really realistically be, we're talking a fraction of a percent really off. Now, I'm not saying this to say that I'm awesome. I'm sure a lot of people had this in, so it was a 0.37% lower than my expected area, but obviously bids were filled, longs were placed, and yeah, it's working out so far so good. Weekends can often have a pump, and so for Bitcoin we could expect some pumping going on today, maybe some pumping going on tomorrow, but there's more to it than just this chart, I would say, with the new variant that's coming out, and the traditional markets seem to have had a bit of reaction to that. And if anyone was around in March 2009 to 2020, you might remember what happened overnight. Now, we kind of saw a downtrend form before we saw the crash, and so some of us were able to get out and in at the bottom of that crash. And if not at the very bottom, because I have to say I didn't catch any knives on that. Why would you? We were looking at essentially a global pandemic that could have caused all kinds of craziness. But shortly after was some of the best movements crypto has ever seen, almost on par with what happened since January. So if you were able to catch the bottom of the alts in January 2021, it was similar to catching the summer bottoms in 2020. I mean, like I say, there's a lot of you guys who watch this channel are quite new to all of this, but when you see people talk about all these metaverses or whatever like that, when there's a time and a place to make some epic trades. And I always say this, I say usually once a year you will get an epic alt season. Once a year you will get something epic. We had an epic one in 2020, we had an epic one in 2021. We've been very lucky over the last couple of years to have some amazing opportunities to tear it all up. But that doesn't come without some devastation first. Obviously, if you want to buy the floor, buy some bottoms, then that's where the fun has. Now, I'm not saying that whatever's going on in the media and traditional stock markets and with the dollar rallying, which is usually an indicator of stocks being sold, and people going into cash positions just through, I suppose a hedge against what could be a further drop in all markets. I'm not saying that we're going to have a significant drop, but if we start to go into lockdowns again, then we may and we probably should expect that. And so as this new variant pops up across different countries, we're probably going to be looking at different ways to dealing with it. And if we do end up going into lockdowns like we did before, then obviously that affects the economy, and speculators will sell and short stocks, and crypto investors will take profit because it's your store of value. What's the point of having a store of value if you can't draw upon that value? So this is what I mean. But in all of that, if that were to happen, and I'm not saying it's going to, but if it were to happen, absolutely epic times will ensue shortly after. And partially that's why I think the market peaked so early at the beginning, of this year, really, sort of in the second quarter. Because really, we should have had something like that happening basically around now. That's how it would have normally have flowed, but no, it didn't, because everything pumped, stock market pumped and everything. Anyway, I'm rabbiting on. I've gone completely off topic. That's for the Patreon stream tonight. So if you want to join the Patreon, there's a link in the description below. We do 2 live streams a week, and we look at all the different altcoins. You can ask me whatever question you want, and £7.50 a month, and like I say, 2 streams a week. And that's where you can hear me dribble on about all kinds of nonsense, as well as looking at the altcoin charts. But in the long story short, Bitcoin looks like it wants to have a bounce here. Where will it likely bounce to? Well, we've got a short signal just formed on the 4-hourly, so I could be looking for a rejection anywhere from 55 to potentially 56. There's many areas of potential rejection around here. Like I say, this is a short signal formed on the last candle body, so what we might be getting here is a potential short squeeze. You might get one of those scam pumps to a high level, mid 50s maybe, before we continue with the down and retest these lows, and maybe a little lower. I'm not here to spread hopium across the board, far from it. I'm very bullish on the long term. There's many reasons that I go into all the time why I should be bullish on the long term. But short term right now, is a bit difficult to put your finger on. We managed to catch this low here for Bitcoin, but as for where it's going to go from here, I mean, we are bouncing clearly, and that's a decent bounce, but short-term time frames are still pretty worrying. We've got lots of lower highs and lower lows here, so it's a consistent and relatively aggressive downtrend so far. From the top to the bottom, we're at 22%. That's not the worst downtrend you've ever seen for Bitcoin. A 35% is not off the cards, and a 40% also not off the cards. All of these things are not off the cards at all. We could easily see these and still be very much in keeping with a bull market. But for those who think that that's a ridiculous thing to say, I imagine you've not been in the market for very long, because if you remember last bull market, we had very much similar kind of vibe. From the top to bottom here, we had a 44.5% collapse from September to, still September. So it didn't take long, and then shortly after then, all the way to the moon. And like I say, this is all part of it. And there's nothing wrong with being new. Everyone's new once. And you look at something like this and go, it's over, it's a bear market, it's the end, it's blah blah blah, it's this, it's that, you're wrong, blah blah blah. It's so far it's what, a 20-something% pullback. It would still not even be a 30% pullback if we came down to retest the 200 exponential. So let's just calm down, relax. Matt Damon told you to be brave, so this is time to listen to Matt Damon. Be brave, right? The brave buy Bitcoin, especially when they buy it at the top. So just relax. I'm sure everything is okay, but it doesn't mean we can't go down further. I'm prepared for that. But so far, the buy zone has held relatively well, so we'll just see where it goes. Anyway, this has been a long video. Sorry about that, guys. I'll leave it with you there. Ocean looks good. Bitcoin looks okay. The market generally as a whole is fine, I think. And be prepared for what could be further downside. And if this breaks down, it'll be a much larger breakdown. and potential reversal from a much lower area, like potentially the mid to low 40s. But I hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.